gonna go get a different ironing board while you get set up. Get them on here.
Okay, this says I see us on YouTube. All right, we got one person watching on YouTube. Let's see where we're at on Facebook. We're good on Facebook. 2 people watching. All right. I think we are all set. What time is it? 12:59?
Yep.
All right, well, we'll let people get on here for a little bit. Oh, 7 on Facebook, 15 on YouTube. All right, hello from South Carolina. Hello, looks like Melinda and Sue Ellen. Hi, Sue Ellen. Hi, Cindy from Tampa, Florida.
I just had
Hi, Laura.
visitors from Florida yesterday.
Yeah, we just had visitors in here from Florida. Plus, my daughter is home from college, and she's going to college in Tampa, Florida. So, she is at University of South Florida. Hello from North Carolina. Hi, everybody. Hello from Texas. Hello from Amelia Island, Florida. That sounds like a wonderful place to be, on an island. All right, well, hello from Montana. Let's see. Okay, before we get started, I thought it would be nice to show you guys a couple new things. So, first, I'm going to switch over. We got Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Las Vegas, Northern Virginia. Man, people are tuning in from everywhere. Okay, Mom, it's on you, so maybe you could just grab the panel. So, we are excited to show you our next panel. So, this is going to be in the Q3 boxes for those of you who are in the box program. And the panel border itself is called Wild Escapes border, and we received 3 different panels from Hoffman Fabrics, and this is one of them. This is the.
Do you want me in front or is this okay?
No, you can see. You can see really good, actually. So actually, if you stand back, can you stand back like another inch or
Nope.
a few inches? Okay. So that's as big as it's going to get, but you can imagine the rest of the bottom there. So this is what's coming in your Q3 boxes. However, we have 3 different panels, and I didn't bring the other panels in, but we did post about it in the Quiltworx Box Club and also on our Quiltworx Facebook page. So you can check those out. And one is also like a leg short. Don't pin it. Oh well, that's.
I'll take it down.
You can take it down. I'm like, you can't pin it over the project we're doing. There we go. Now you can see it really good. Okay, and you can't choose from the 3 because we only have limited numbers. But so you are going to get what you get in your box, and we'll do our best to make sure that you get an assortment of them. And you will not get the same one if you have both boxes. We will make sure to send you. We'll mark it on our notes which one you get in the large box and which one you get in the small. So let's see.
Do you want me to show the other one?
Yeah. So then we have one more we want to show you. So our Q2 box panel border was the cherry nectar panel, and we have finished. We have finished up a sample that's going to go on the actual cover sheet of the pattern, and the pattern is actually published now. And what we're excited about here is just to show you what it looks like with a different panel and a different colorway. So this is a new panel from Timeless Treasures called Lumiere, and we picked this one mostly because of timing when the project was coming out, and we just thought it was really beautiful, and we put it with color stock fabrics. So just so you guys can see it in another colorway, in additional panel options, we will have we will have kits for this colorway and for a second colorway of this quilt coming probably by the end of July, because the panels haven't quite shipped yet. So if you guys are looking for another butterfly sample, we have just a few of those left. We had 39 left, so we put those up on Quiltster, and now we have we've sold half of them, so we have about 20 left available, and then the butterflies are gone forever. Otherwise, we're going to switch over to this colorway and this panel. So that shows you all the new panel details, and I hope you guys love the Wild Escapes border. There's going to be so many fun things you can do with that one. So let's see. I guess with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Judy, and she's gonna get started. I might mention too, you can still sign up for the box program. So if you're joining us now and you're wondering, how do I do all this? You can still join at box.quiltworx.com. You can join just for one shipment, or you can join for a whole year. It's up to you. You can make a large project or a small project. Oh, and on the large projects, we did actually find, we had to make a couple small substitutions, but we did that yesterday, and we can do 13 more of the Huckleberry colorway for Berry Bramble out of the Hoffman fabric. So if anyone's looking for that one, we do have just a few kits that came available again, so we relisted it as an option. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Judy.
Okay. We probably should show them the project we're working on the wall over there.
Oh, okay. All right. I switched over there.
Okay, you guys. So during the last box or quarter video that I did, we did the wedding ring table runner.
Look up there.
Yeah. And so anyway, it's hanging behind my cutting table there. And in that video, we talked about the book 1 that's in your packages. We also talked about, I showed you guys how to do all of the arcs, okay? So for this video, all we're going to focus on today is making all of the pieces for the wedding star. We're not going to work on the arcs because we already have that video for the arcs, okay? So you'll have to go back. If you didn't see that other video, you'll have to go back to that one, and that will show you how we do all the strip piecing on the arcs, okay? So on the wall here, what we have is we're doing the table topper, and so basically I believe there's 12 rings in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, yep, there's 12 rings in it. And in order to get the scallop look, which is what I'm going to do with this one, I'm not squaring it up. We will talk a little bit about squaring it up, but you have to have these certain components in order to get the arcs to the round around the outside edge. And so in today's video, what we're going to do is go over the cutting instructions for all of the CDS units and the CMS units and the melons, and then we're going to show you how to do the piecing on those, and then we're going to go over the assembly work on it, okay? So we're going to go back over here to my cutting table, all right? And I'm also going to remind you that we do have the Creative Grid templates ruler, and I'm going to be showing you how to use it to cut out all of the parts today. If you're doing a big quilt, you really want these because it really makes the cutting process a lot faster, and it's just easier to go around everything.
Saying they can't see you.
Why can't they see me?
I'm not sure why.
Can they see me now?
Yeah, okay, she says now. So
Okay.
for some reason, I don't know if the camera delayed or what happened, but anyway.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're on Judy now. My camera shifted and all of the views on my end moved. So hopefully we're good. All right.
Now you guys can see this, hopefully. All right. So that's your creative grid rulers. All right. So let's get our package up here. And I have my fabrics. And these are, I've already cut out part of this, but I'm going to go through the cutting process. So I have my colors. We don't have the arc colors here because we've already made those, all right? And then we have my bags of pieces that we have to have. So we're going to pull these out onto the table, and we'll go through that. And then I have all of my wedding ring rulers, and we're going to find a spot to put these because we're going to be using them. And we're going to have, I'm going to talk about the little corner piece. And then we have the templates, okay? So we have everything we need on the table, and my instructions are right here, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to skip pages 1. We're going to skip we're going to go to page 2, and at the bottom of page 2, right here, there's the information that you need for the corner pieces, and you'll have to select your 4 corners to go with your arcs, okay? After you get a little swatch pasted on those, then you're going to move forward. We're not going to go over the arcs today, and we're going to get started on page 6, okay? And when
you do that, fold it so that they can see, because they can only see 1 page at a time.
Yeah, we'll go like this. Okay, so on the bottom of page 6 is another explanation. This is about cutting out the corners. So basically you need 3-inch strips of 4 different colors. Now you can do it with 2 colors, and you can do it with 4 colors, and you can even do it with more colors. But if you do it with the 4 colors, it follows the instructions. If you change the number of colors that you're doing with it, then you're going to probably have to put the pieces on the wall and decide where you want to set up your colors, which you can do that. There's nothing wrong with just pinning all your pieces up on the wall when you're ready to assemble, and then figure out where your colors go for the corners. All right. You'll also notice when you read that each one of your colors has an A, a B, a C, and a D assigned to it. And you need to make sure that you assign that as well to your fabrics so that you know where the A color goes, the B color goes, and you'll see why as we move forward with this, okay? Now we're going to go to the next page here, okay? So on this page, it's going to start up here at the top and tell you a little bit about the foundation, the chart that you have, and you're going to you need to refer back to this chart all the time. And I'm going to show you how everything works there, all right? Here's your foundation papers. We already cut out all the foundation papers, and you are going to have some extra foundation papers in your package, okay? So don't get hung up on those. You can basically make another little small table topper for the center pieces if you do, but you'll have to cut out additional background pieces, all right? And then the second TP sheet here, that's all your template pieces, okay? All your templates, you need to cut them out on the line. Don't leave a 1/4 inch on the outside of it, because we're going to be cutting strips down to the size of those templates. And if your templates are too big, it's going to be difficult to get everything underneath there fit the way it's supposed to, all right? So then there's just general information there about what floating points are, because our wedding star pattern has floating points in it. So I'm going to point out the floating points. When you look at the star, these stars do not touch on our newest pattern, okay? In 2008, we updated the instructions for the wedding star, and we gave the star floating points. If you have an older pattern that was published before 2008, then these points actually touch here, all right? And so anyway, that was a change that we made. We did not change anything else in the pattern as far as the size of the arcs or anything. All we changed was the size of the star so that everything floated, okay? So now, if you have an older pattern and you're watching this video, just follow the instructions in the older pattern and make it. Don't worry about trying to transfer over and get new papers for floating points, because you're not going to notice a whole lot of difference between it. The old pattern looks great, so does the new pattern, but it's not worth going in there and changing out all those papers, the background papers for the arcs and the melons. Just follow your pattern and use what's in there, okay? So the other thing that I've done here is on the side of my chart, you'll see these fabric swatches here. Okay, so we're using one color for the background. So this section on this chart is all for background information, okay? And then down here, this is my dark star. And all of this information is for the dark star. And all of this is for the medium star. Notice there's no information in here for those corner pieces, because that was on the previous page, okay? So we're going to have to flip back and forth through here, and I'm going to show you, when we turn the page here, how to use the chart, okay? So right here at the first of the pattern, right, the other thing at the top, it talks about smart corners. So the Creative Grid templates do not come with smart corners. They're just what they are. But the newsprint that we have has the smart corners printed on them, but you can also just cut them out to match the foundation papers. So let me grab one of those to kind of explain what you're seeing here. So let's get this one right here. So this is a CMS unit right there. Can you see it?
Hold it up more. No.
Okay. Down?
Towards me.
There?
No, towards me. There. Come this way.
Like that?
Yeah, now you can see it. See?
Oh, no, that's my floating point. I want the smart corner.
Oh.
Okay. So if you look at these little lines here, that squared off point, that's where your Creative Grid templates are. And then these other little ones, those are your smart corners, okay? We're gonna be cutting the smart corners today, and I really think you guys should at least cut the first, like if you're doing the table topper, go ahead and cut the smart corners on all your pieces. It's not that much. Once you understand what the smart corners work, how they work, when you do a big quilt, you probably won't want to go through and cut all of those, but you'll understand how everything assembles, and you'll be able to assemble a bigger quilt. But the smart corners really do help you to see how everything's supposed to position, all right? But so we're actually going to do all of the little trimming around the smart corners today. All right. So then you go down to the next one, and it talks about your background fabric, and there's a little swatch there. And we just put a little piece of fabric over that. And I like to glue off to the edge if there's room so that I can fold it back and read what's underneath it. This is my medium star fabric, and this is my dark star fabric again. So I've added my swatches to this table, or this page. And then we're going to get into the cutting instructions down here. Okay, one of the things about this paragraph up here is that tells you how many pieces you have to have. And this, I think this is the only place in the pattern that it really talks about the number of pieces that you need. And remember, you're going to have some extra arcs, and you might even have a few extra melons. I can't remember if I had extra melons. So pay attention to what you have there, and so that you don't cut out more than you need, okay? So let's get to the cutting instructions. So On the very first one, it says cutting instructions for the background fabric. Notice that we don't really have what the fabric number and stuff is in there, but it is your background fabric. And if I read this, I'm going to, which I'm going to read this. Here you will find the number of background fabrics you should use on line 6, okay? The yardage you should have for your project is on line 7. So this is where how you use your chart. You come over here and you find line 6, and it says we're only using, line 6 it says we're only using one color, and line 7 tells us we needed 7/8 of a yard, all right? So as you go through all of the cutting instructions in here, it's going to keep sending you back to that chart with the correct number that you need for this pattern, all right? So the next, if I keep going down, it tells me I have to have 10.5, I have to cut the 10.5 inch strip, but it doesn't tell me how many. I have to go back to that chart, and so line 8 and line 9, so if I look at line 8 and line 9, it tells me I need 3 10-inch strips cut from my background fabric. Line 9 tells me I need 8 10-inch by 10.5-inch rectangles cut from it, okay? So that's why you want to go back to this chart, because it's going to give you all of the correct numbers that you need for what you're doing, okay? So now we're going to go ahead, and I've cut the 10-inch strips right now. The other thing that I kind of missed on the instructions is it talks about on a couple of these pages setting up bags. So you're going to have a bag that's called the CMS bag. You're going to have a bag that's called for the melons, and you're going to have a bag for the CDS units, which are right here. And then you should have a bag that has all of your arcs in it as well. All right. So on our templates, you have a template here, and this is a T-template E. T-template E is a traditional size template, and that's only used if you decide to square up your quilt. I'm not doing a square up on this version. I'm just going to keep the scalloped edge. If you look behind me, this quilt was squared up when we did the wedding ring. I actually added some extra row of arcs to the bottom of it as well to make it longer, all right? So we're going to get rid of that template because we don't need it today. So the next templates that we're going to have is you should have a template here, and this template is your CMS template, and it says CMS. And if you're wondering what CMS, it just says center, medium, star, okay? And then we have the CDS template, and that stands for center, dark star, okay? And then we go to these templates, and this one is a medium melon, okay? So that's going to stay with the melons. This one is a CMS, which is your medium center star. This one is a dark center star, that's a CDS, and this is another melon one, which is the dark melon star. Notice that I put all of these little swatches on my papers, because then I don't accidentally pick up my papers and set them on the wrong fabrics. I can pair them up to my fabrics, okay? So I've already cut out all the fabrics. Let's go over to this page right here. Here's the cutting instructions for the dark star fabrics, and those are 10-inch strips. And then down here is the cutting instructions for the medium star fabrics, and those are also 10-inch strips, okay? So let's go back, and we're going to start with the the background fabric. So this is my background fabric right here, and I have 3 strips, and if I read my instructions, it tells me that I need to use 2 strips to cut out, and I need to set the 3rd strip aside and put it with my melons. So I'm actually going to take it and put it over here right now in the melon bag. And the reason for that is because you have enough. We cut the melons out of these, so if you look, these pieces are for the melons right here. But because we don't use as many of the center pieces, we have to have extra melons. So you'll have to come back and cut an additional 8 pieces out of this other strip. All right. So let's take this. And then it's going to tell you to check your line chart, and you're going to cut your 10 and they're a 10.5 inch rectangle. So they're 10 inches by 10.5 inches. So let's cut the selvage off here. All right. Now, right now I'm just going to cut the rectangles so I can leave my fabrics folded right sides together, but then we'll have to restack them. So we're going to take this one. And my instructions told me I needed 8 of these rectangles. So I'm going to put this piece on here and go ahead and cut another rectangle to fit my template. There we go. Okay, now my instructions will tell me if I go back there that I have to put 4 pieces underneath this one. So we're going to take this and we're going to put everything right side up before we cut. And they are actually rectangles, so I guess it actually does go this way. There we go. And this one goes like that too. They're not perfectly cut. It's not really going to matter at this point, but I am going to make sure that it's straight along the top edge and the side here, okay? Then we're going to put that template on there. We're going to grab our repositionable glue, and I'm going to put my glue underneath where it says scrap, and then we have another scrap here, and then I'm just going to run it kind of right in a couple spots in the middle that I know will be coming off, and then we're going to set it up here, and I think it actually sets this way. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing over here. So let's put everything right side up. And this has directional writing on it, but there's no way I can get all of the writing in this pattern directional. So we're just going to cut it, and the way it ends up, it ends up. So we're just going to put that repositionable glue along the edges, and we're going to put it on here like that. Okay, so now then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our center ring melon, or template here, and we need our straight one too. So the first thing I'm going to do is, this is cut line 1. So I'm going to take this and we're going to cut right on cut line 1. Okay. And then it says here, cut line 2. And I'm going to take this outside curve here, this curve right there, and I'm going to lay it right on that line like that. And if I have 11 or 12 fabrics underneath there, I just cut through 12 layers, and I have my melon pieces right there, okay? And then this one tells me this is my line 3. And we're going to do the same thing there. Okay. There's some more melon pieces. And now we're going to come to the cut line 4 and 5. This is cut line 4. Okay. The reason I have to cut that chunk off is that gives me my sew side right here. And then we're going to cut this off. And again, that leaves me with a sew side. Now I'm just going to take a paper clip and we're going to clip those pieces together. And those say they're for my CMS. So I'm going to find that bag over here that says CMS. And we're going to slip that inside this bag, just like that. All right, now we're going to do the same thing with this one. We're going to find cut line 1. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you another little trick that I do where I only have the 4 pieces. I can actually just take these pieces like this, stack them, put my template on here. And now I have my melon pieces. We're going to put a paper clip on those. And we're going to put the melons into the bag that says melon. Okay. And then we're going to put a paper clip on these. And we're going to put these in the bag that says CDS. And now we have all the background pieces cut. So now we're going to turn the page here and we're going to go to our stars. And it says here that I need the 10-inch strip, which I have a 10-inch strip. I want the dark star first. Okay, so that means I want my brown fabric here. Okay, and then if I look up here, it says cross cut the strips into 5, 7, and inch by 10-inch rectangles. All right, so we're going to cut the rectangles. We're going to get rid of the salvage here. Okay. And then we're going to find a ruler that gives me a 5-inch. Now I think this one is a 6-inch. And this said to cut 5, 7-inch. Yep. So this is a 6-inch ruler, or is this a 6.5? This is a 6.5. So I'm just going to line it up there, and line it up there, and that's going to give me 6.5. Okay. And that gives me 2. And we'll get this one right there. And a half, and this will give me my 7 inches again. And then we're going to do that one more time. Okay. And we only need 5 of these. So we're just going to stack 5. I will tell you that most of my students just stack them all. That way if they make a cutting mistake, they already have some extra pieces. The problem with extra pieces is when you make extra pieces and you sew them onto your papers, sometimes you end up with too many pieces from one colorway. So you need to do your math. And if you want to cut extra pieces, cut them, but don't sew them until unless you absolutely have to. Okay, so now it tells me to split this. In step 3, I have to divide and put 2 into one stack and 3 into another. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and this is 1, 2. Okay, I'm not going to cut it because I know I don't need it. Okay. And then it's going to tell me on the stack, clip 1 copy of the dark center star onto the CDS unit. So that's my CDS unit, which is right here. Okay. And then it tells me to it tells me how to clip it. And then it comes down here, and the melons go on the one that have the 3. So this goes over here, and this one is a dark that goes over here. So I had to read 2 paragraphs to figure out which one it had, but the CDS for the center stars go on the 2, and then your melon goes on this one. And look, see, I have the wrong color there, right? So I actually, when I'm looking at it, the melon, I put the,
You need to switch that.
yeah, I switched, I had them on the wrong papers. So see that? Don't do that. So we're just going to put a little, because this is my CMS star right here.
That one gets the light.
And that one gets this piece right here. Okay, and then this is my dark melon star, which gets this brown piece right here. There we go. Now we have it, right? Okay. So now all I have to do is just take a ruler, and I really don't even have to glue this on. All I have to do is just cut like there. And then I can split here and stack my pieces underneath this one. And then we just cut like this. Okay. And now all of these pieces are going to be clipped together. And we're going to put those in the CDS bag here in just a second. And these are my melon pieces. And we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, and these go into the melon bag. Okay, so we're going to find our CDS ones, and those go in here. I'm just going to put the template in there with it. Okay, now I have everything I need for my CDS, and then we're going to find the melon, and those go into the melon bag. Okay, right, now we're going to grab these pieces. We're going to get our CMS fabric, and we have to go back to our instructions for a second here. And it's down here at the bottom. We're going to flip it over, and it's going to tell me that I need to cross cut 5 7-inch or 7-inch by 10-inch rectangles again. So we're going to do the same thing here. Now, some of you are going to look at that and go, well, why didn't you just cut them together? Well, one of your issues with cutting them together is they are opposite, so they're a mirror image. And yeah, we could have cut them, the rectangles together, but I didn't read that far. So this gives me 2. We're just going to take this. Gives me another one. And that gives me the rest of it. Okay. And then we're going to separate them. And this one tells me I need 2 stacks for CMS and 3 stacks for the melons. So we're going to put those. And then this one. There's 2. And here's number 3. So we'll just put this one down there. So this one is my CMS template right here. This is my melon template. Okay. So we're just going to cut. right here. Set this off to the side. I must have a little nick in my blade. These go in the CMS bag. And then this one here is for our melon. This one goes with the melons. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take that extra fabric out and we're going to cut those additional 8 pieces that I need. And if you're wondering why I know I need that many without reading my instruction, it's because I remember from last night when I was making the one on the wall. So we're going to open this up. And I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to take these 2 template pieces right here, stacks like this, and I'm going to set them on here like this. Okay. So now that I know that I have those 2 stacks, then we're going to come over here. All right. And I'm just going to cut another angle right here. Okay, so that gives me 2 cuts. So now I can take this and I can stack it. This is going to give me 4 pieces. This one's going to give me 6 pieces. And this one, and I'm going to put a little bit of starch on that to get rid of that crease there. And if you haven't ever seen me do this before, this is an acorn starch pen, and I use it to get all of my little wrinkles out of my fabric. And we're going to take this. Okay, so that's going to give me enough for 8 pieces. Then I'm just going to take that template, put it on here like this. Take this one, put it on here like this. And then we're going to cut through the middle of it. Okay, just like that. And then I'm going to flip this one. We're going to put it on here like that. Put the template back on it. Like that. Then I'm going to take my little ruler. And we're going to cut them all at the same time. And there we go. And now we have all the melon pieces. So what you guys have just seen is I now have everything cut out for my quilt. So here's my melons. And everything's in bags, so we can start doing the chain piecing and make these units, and that's what we're going to do now. So these pieces right here are for my corners, and you have to have 6 of each of the 4 colors, okay? And I don't have enough left over. I got to go get some more scraps for that. So we're going to, I think I'm done with this for just a little bit. So we won't use it again until we're ready to trim. We don't need the big ruler anymore. What we need is an add a quarter ruler. And there it is. So now we need an add a quarter and a fold template. And we're going to start with our CDS units, if I can find them right here. Okay, so the CDS unit is the first thing that we're going to actually. And before we get started on that, I just want to go over those just a little bit with you. Okay, so in your instructions, every step that I do in the preparation for this is there's a picture of it. Okay, so when you're trying to figure out, you just read what it tells you, do exactly what it says, place the pieces on there, and follow it through. After you do a couple pieces individually, then you're going to be able to go through and do them all in a chain piecing process, okay? So we're going to start, it actually starts with the CDS bag, is the first bag we're going to work with. So I'm going to get these pieces off my table. And we're going to pull everything out of this. And we're only going to make 4 pieces of this. So what we're going to do is we have 4 pieces of paper. And then I actually have 4 pieces that I cut last night. So we'll just save this for the next one. And then I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4 of this one right here. And we'll save this for another demo. Okay, so on the CDS unit, you want to look at your pieces and says section 1 is my great big piece. So let's go here. So look at your papers. This says section 1, so that's my big background piece, and section 2 is actually the brown star piece. All right, so we want to take the background pieces and we're going to flip the fabric over like this. We're going to grab the repositionable glue and we're just going to put just a little bit of glue on the back side of that, and then we're going to take that piece and put it on there just like that. Okay, and that's one. And notice when you're looking at this, notice how there's fabric underneath this long point right here, but you don't need fabric under this because that's for the brown fabric, okay? So if that's not gonna fit, don't worry about it because it doesn't need to. It just needs to fit under this piece. Then we're going to take the next one. I'm going to place it right on top like that. Use my repositionable glue and put that in place. And then we're going to do the next one. We're going to do our repositionable glue. And then the next piece here. And there goes the repositionable glue. All right. Now, we're going to actually grab our fold template now. We're done with this template. And I'm going to put it back in my bag just because I know I'm going to need it later on. Okay, and we're going to pick this up and we're going to place the fold template on here. We're going to fold back the edge right along the line there. That's line 1. Put the outer quarter ruler on there and trim. Okay, and then I just crease that, run my fingernail over it, put the next fold template on the next piece, fold back the paper, okay, line the fold template up again with line 1, and that is your solid line. So for those of you that are new, line 1, you always fold on the solid line. Okay, and then we're going to crease that again, place it on line 1, fold back the foundation paper. Should I do this under the camera as a close-up? I think it will. Okay, so you see that? So we're going to place it on line 1, that's that solid line there, fold back the foundation paper, pick up the add a quarter ruler, and trim. Okay, so now we're going to grab our other fabric here, and we're going to move this out of the way, the add a quarter, the fold template, fold this back, and we're going to position the next piece. All right, so my sew side on this is the diagonal edge, all right? And we're going to actually take this and we're going to position it. Okay, here's number one mistake when people are doing the wedding star, is they don't come down here and look at the leg down here. That has to have fabric under it. So if you set this on here and you line that up like that, which happens over and over and over again, you have all this excess up here. Look at, there's no fabric under the legs. So when I open that up, you have to pick all your pieces off and redo them. Okay, so remember, just take that, slide it up, and make sure that there's fabric underneath that leg there, and that should leave you about 1.5 inches of fabric up here. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my glue pin and I'm going to lift up the seam allowance there, just lift that, and I'm putting the glue right on and gluing those fabrics together. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up the next one. I'm going to lay it on there just like that, and I'm going to run my glue right along the edge there. Okay, and then we're going to put this on here, and we're going to double check and make sure that I have fabric past the tail. All right, then we're going to take the next piece, put it on here again. Let's put a little bit of glue along that edge. Make sure you don't get so much glue that it sticks out underneath the seam allowance, where you sew at. Because if you get too much glue there, then when you open it up, the glue is all over the fabric. So my tail's covered. Then we pick up the next piece. I'm going to put a little bit of glue right along that edge. Pick this up. Put it on there, slide it up until I have about 1 inch of fabric, or at least 1/2 inch of fabric past my tail down here. So now these are ready to sew. And what I'm going to do is set them aside over here by my machine, and I'm going to set up the CMS units. Okay, so we're going to grab the bag for the CMS unit. We have 4 papers there. We're going to find 4 pieces of fabric, which are right here. And the sew side on this piece is actually the diagonal edge as well. And then we're going to grab 4 background pieces, which are right here. I'm going to keep the template with it. Put this back in the bag. Okay, so the sew side on this piece is here. So let's look at this paper. So this is my next paper. Okay, this says section 1. So the star point is my first section, and my background is the second piece added to it. All right, so we're going to take all of these pieces and we're going to flip them over. Get rid of these paper clips. Pick up the first one, and on this one, I'm actually, I think I'll use the reposition. And we're going to put that on there along that edge. And we're going to make sure that we have fabric past the dash line, fabric past this tip, and fabric past the bottom there. Then we're going to pick the next piece up, stack it on top. So if you're doing a large quilt, wedding star quilt, you might as well do this to all 84 fabrics, or actually I think there's 72 if you're doing the 6x6 ring. Just get all of the pieces in place and then run them all through at one time. There we go. Now we're going to grab our fold template, and I'm going to place it on line 1, fold back the paper, place the outer quarter ruler, and trim. And then I'm going to crease that line. Place it on line 1, fold back the paper, and trim, and stack.
So I don't know if you know this, Mom, but we have someone from Brazil that's doing the box program with us.
Oh.
And she just said that she got her box, and she got it yesterday, so this was perfect timing.
Good.
We also have an Australian on, and we have our Europeans on, so.
Ah, you guys are up late. I've been in Australia. I haven't been to Europe yet. There we go. And I haven't been to Brazil either. Okay, so we have those 4 pieces there. Now, here's my sew side, right here. And let's move this over under the camera, the little camera here. So, if you look, it says the sew side's right here. We're going to move all these pieces right here like that, okay? And we're going to grab the first piece of this, set that over there. I'm going to put a little bit of glue along the sew edge, like that, and then we're going to lift this up, and I'm going to place my finger right here and right at the bottom of where the fabric is, or the paper is folded, and we're going to center that right along that edge, and see how it covers all the way back to my tail here. Okay, and now we're going to set that one aside, and we're going to grab the next one. We're going to do the same thing with it. Pick this up, place my finger at both ends of the folded paper where it's folded back, and set it right down along that sew edge. Glue it on there. And take the next piece. Get that centered on there. Check my tail right there and make sure it's on the fabric. And we have one more piece. There we go. All right, these are all ready to sew as well. So I'm going to put this little template back in my bag, hold on to it for a little bit.
Marianne said, "You can come, Judy, no problem."
All right, so we're all ready to sew. And we're going to sew all 8 of those pieces. So when I'm doing the big wedding star quilt, I like to get all of them stacked and do all of my dark ones and all my medium ones, and then I just run them through at one time because it's only one seam. So we're going to go over here to our machine, and we're going to bring the needle up, get it started, and we're going to sew on line 1. And the reason we have that line there is so that you guys actually sew on it. It's important to stay on the lines with these because they're gonna come back and you're gonna have matching seams. And if you're off the line, then you're gonna lose a lot of those matching seams. And we're gonna take the next piece. Open it up. One of the things that your glue, by gluing those raw edges together, helps you with is that fabric on the bottom. They don't shift on you underneath when you're sewing. It holds your fabrics together for you. And then we're going to start with our dark star. Okay, so we're going to pretend that we actually have 8 pieces here instead of 4, but okay, we're going to go to the ironing board. So we're going to take all these over here to the iron. And I actually have a steam iron today because I really like my steam when I'm working with the wedding ring quilts. Okay, it's going to have to heat up just a little bit. So let's just go ahead and get all these opened up and ready to press. I like to do a little bit of a finger press first. I can hear my iron starting to boil a little bit there, so it should be just about ready to use. Okay, so we got them all finger pressed, and now what I'm going to do is I'm also going to starch these just a little bit, okay? I'm not going to put a lot of starch on them, but just enough to get them to where they lay down. It's nice. And make sure you don't get any little folds right up in here, so double check and make sure that that's all coming open for you. Here and here, don't want any folds on that. So when we were making these, the reason why we put the dark star on one of the units first and then the background on the other unit first is because that forces opposing seams when you actually start to assemble your star pieces. So. Okay, so when we run these, when I have my CIs make these quilts and train them for teaching, what I like to do is tell them you need to have one class where all you do is the star units. And then you have another class, you set up a second class for doing all the melons. So we start with the cutting, getting everything cut out in the first class. The second class is all about making arcs. Then we do a third class on your stars, and then we do a fourth class on the melons. You get all the parts made, and then we come back and we learn how to assemble them, okay? So basically we just finished our star pieces. I'm going to show you how to trim one unit. I don't need to show you how to trim them all. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, remember we talked about those little smart corners? Okay, I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to put my blade on the smart corners and cut the smart corners right now. And so I'm having to hold down that paper right there, okay? And it wants to come up on you. So I'm going to show you a little trick. If you'll actually go through and put just a little bit of glue under the tail end of all of these before you start doing your cutting, just lift them up and do every single one of them. You will find the accuracy in your cutting and sewing will improve 100%, all right? So go ahead and get all of your little points glued down like that. And you just, for that I'm using the fabric glue pen, not the repositionable glue. It's just a fabric glue pen, because once you get it cut, you just loosen it up and it comes right off for you. Okay, you just don't want to iron it, because when you iron it, it bakes it into the fabric. So you just want to pull it away from the fabric and the paper away from each other before you go to the iron with them. All right, So I'm going to cut this one. We're not going to cut these other ones here, so we'll set these aside. And so let's go ahead, and I should do this under this little iron so you guys can see, or this little camera here, so you can actually see what I'm doing. So see my smart corners? I'm just going to take that, and then we're going to clean it like that. Then we're going to cut this one. So there's 4 little angles on there. And you'll think that's a little silly to start with, but it's not. It really will it makes a lot of difference on how it assembles. Now we're going to trim the straight edges. And because we glued that down, we don't have to worry about that little tail moving underneath the ruler. Okay? And once I get that done, then I can take my big ruler, and I don't know if I can get this to fit. Oh yeah, I can. This is going to go on like this. And I can lay this big ruler right on there, like that. Can you see how I'm laying that on there? Yeah. I'm not going to be able to, I don't know, think I can cut it. Maybe I can get it to cut. Yeah, and it's moving because I don't have, but you saw what I'm talking about. So, all right, so there we go. And it moved just a little bit on me there. Okay, so we're going to do that on this one over here, and then we'll have one of each one of them cut and ready to demo. So I already glued them down. And it doesn't really matter whether you cut those smart corners before or after. So I'm going to get the curve cut first. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do my smart corners. And then we're going to do this one. And you can see why I tell you guys when you're working with a large quilt that this can become really tedious, but with these small ones, it will really teach you about how everything fits together there. I can see right now that I clean that off good enough for what I like. I need to be right on that line, so I'm going to come in and do a little bit more of a clean there. There we go. Now we're going to go to a ruler. When I'm doing a whole bunch of these, I like to go through and get all the smart corners done, then do all the straight line cutting, and then come back and finish up with the curves, or in any order you want, but get that way you're not lifting the rulers back and forth and flipping them around. So, okay, so now we have one of each of them trimmed. And they basically fit like that. So the next thing we're going to work on is the melons. So we're going to put these pieces back in here for now. And these go back into here. And I like to keep all of my elements separate until I'm ready to assemble. So we're going to put those down there. We're going to grab our melons. And we're going to show you how to do, I'm going to do 4 melons as well on the chain piecing, just so that you can see the process that I use to make these. All right, so I need 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm going to teach you is a little bit different than the way it's set up in the pattern, but the end result is the same. You still end up with the end results. This is just a stacking process. It works great. I'll put those back in. And then I need 8 of these pieces. So there's 4 there. And 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Okay, so we have all of our pieces. So you have to have your dark star, your medium star, and then 2 of the background pieces per unit. All right. So in the instructions here, we've already done all of the paper piecing on the CDS and CMS. Then we start down here on the melons. The very first picture is on page 11, and it shows you putting placing the medium star fabric underneath section 1. Okay, so I'm going to actually do that to show you to get to the piecing process, or the chain piecing process. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right under that section there. And then it shows you lining that, getting that set up like that. Okay, so now you have that piece under there. Now if you turn the page, the next picture tells you to take your fold template, and that's what we're going to do. And you're going to place it on line 1, and you're going to fold the foundation paper back, and then you trim. Okay, so that puts us at step 6. We've just trimmed it. Okay, now step 7 on here tells us to take the dark star piece and place it right underneath there and line that up. Okay. And I'm going to lift the fabric and glue the raw edges under the seam allowance. And then it tells you to do your sewing. Okay, so this is where I like to, I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking, well, all I have is my brown and my light fabrics together. So the dark fabric's on the bottom. So I can actually just take this piece like that. I'm going to leave that there. And then I'm going to put this piece on here like this. So now I'm just matching up both with right sides together, dark on the bottom, medium on top, right sides together. And I stack all 84 melon pieces just like this. Okay? So then the next thing I like to do is, because here I folded back on the line, but I can save myself some steps here. If I actually come in here and I fold on that dashed line there, and I crease this and fold this back like that, and then I can do the same thing here. Okay, so I have all those folded back. So now we're going to grab our glue pen and we're going to basically put glue under there. Now you can do this gluing before you stack them as well. So now I'm getting all my raw edges glued together. Like this. Now I'm going to take my paper and I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to run my glue right along this edge of the paper like this, and I'm going to place that on there just like that, so that this tail, I have about a ½ an inch of fabric on this edge, and then I'm going to put it there. So notice the difference between that. So see, this shows where your seam allowance is up there. This one I just folded on the dashed line and lined it right up to the edge there. And then I can do that with the next piece. Just put my glue there We're going to line that up, and then I just stack them. And then we're going to take the paper and right along that folded dash line, I put the glue and I stack them. Now I have everything ready, and it saved me a lot of that extra trimming step that I would have to do if I was following the instructions there. So now we're going to go to the machine and we're going to sew these. I'm going to start right here, put the first one, and as you can see, here's where my line starts. I'm going to start about 3 or 4 stitches in front of that, and then we're going to sew. And you're going to sew slow, and you want to stay right on the line there. Don't veer off one way or the other. Just stay right on that line as you go across that center. And then you're going to follow through, and at the end, make sure you stay on the line with it. Okay? And then we're going to grab the next one. And we're going to come over and do the same thing. Then we'll grab the next one. Then we're going to grab the next one. Okay. Now I'm going to press these. And again, we want to do a finger press and make sure that we don't have any little folds in that point. So that's nice and flat. The steam works great for that. The other thing that's going to work really good for that is your starch pen. And I'll grab that starch pen really quick and show you where I use it. So I can just take this, there you go, and run it. I'm just going to run it right on the back side of that seam there. Open this up, finger press it, and then put my steam iron on it. And now I have a nice crisp point there, line there to work with. And you want to make sure you don't have any little folds right here at the top where it first, right there where you started sewing there. That needs to be flat and no folds. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a trick that's not in the pattern. All right, so a lot of people have a hard time getting the next piece on, and it's because there's all this fabric along here. And if they just cut this off now, then they could see exactly where the next piece fits. So I like to just line this up. It's not perfectly aligned, but I can still get them lined up enough. And I'll usually do 4 to 6 of them at a time, get them kind of stacked right on top of each other. And then I just grab I'm going to actually grab the melon template here. And I just set it outside there about 1/4 of an inch. And then we're going to take this one, kind of slip there, but it'll be all right. There we go. So now we got rid of all of that excess on there. Okay, so now we're going to go find line 2, which is right here, and we're going to fold back and trim. So let's take this We have our fold template. We're going to place it on line 2. You're going to have to bring the fabric with it, and then put your fingers underneath and hold on to the paper, and then just pull this away like that. And just get your finger underneath there. And I usually lift it just a little bit and tear it back there until it lays flat for me. Then I place the add a quarter ruler on there, and we trim. Okay. And then we're going to crease that paper and stack it over there. We're going to do that again. Place this on line 2, fold that back, bring the fabric with it, put your fingers underneath there, hold on to that paper, and then just tear that back. And you can lift it and tear a little bit further to make sure that it's going to lay flat. Put the outer quarter and trim. Stack it. If it tears a big hole in your paper there, don't worry about it. It'll be just fine. You don't need all of that paper there, and it makes it a little bit easier to get the fabric out of that sewn area. There's our last piece here. Just lift it, tear it a little bit further down that line. The outer quarter, trim. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get this next piece on. And people do struggle with it, but it's very, very simple. So when I fold it, I have to have fabric underneath this. I'm not matching this point. And this is what happens. People come in and they match that point there, and they set it on, and they leave all their excess up here. You need that excess down here under the paper. So this is another situation where there's no fabric under the paper. Where you're actually going to line it up is you're going to take this point and you lay it up here like this, just about a quarter of an inch down from there. And look, now I have fabric underneath all my paper. It's that simple. There's nothing difficult about it. And if you look at your pictures, it's actually telling you in your pictures to do that as well. The problem with the pictures, it doesn't show that piece, those pieces where I trimmed that off, okay? So we have that one ready. Then we're going to grab the next piece of fabric, which is right here. Oh, it's right there. What was I thinking? Here we go. And on this one, so I know that I want to put my glue right there along that top edge, and then we're going to take that and line it up off of this top point. Look down here, and look, my fabric goes underneath my point. We're going to stack it over here. Then we grab the next one, place a little bit of glue along that raw edge, pick this up, line it up there at the top, at the bottom, and the fabric is underneath my point. I get a lot of phone calls, a lot of text messages, emails. My pieces don't fit. Well, they fit perfect, just like that. So you have fabric under there. So now we're going to go to the sewing machine again. I'm going to open it up, and we're going to start sewing on line 2. Then we pick up the next piece. It is getting hot in this room. I wore my sweatshirt, so I had something to tie my speaker onto, my mic. And the air conditioning in the rest of the building is not on. Okay, so we're going to cut the threads. There we go. Right, now we're going to press these open. So we take this piece. And again, you want to make sure that you don't get any little folds right along this area there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take and put just a little bit of the starch pin.
Dennis said, has anyone actually seen Judy without a Cabela's hoodie on? Well, you know what she has on today? Here, we'll show them.
What?
Show them your sweatshirt.
I do have a sweatshirt.
Scoot over in the video and show them.
Oh, oh, it's a pink door fabric.
It says pink door fabrics on it.
Yeah. It's the lightest sweatshirt I have, but yeah. And yes, Dennis, on occasion I do not wear my sweatshirts.
But you are correct. She usually has Cabela sweatshirts on.
So we're going to just quickly...
Someone said, will this video be available later on for rewatching? Yes. So on Facebook, they're only on our channel for about 30 days, and then they just get deleted by Facebook because otherwise it takes up tons of space. But if you go to our YouTube channel, the videos are on our YouTube channel all the time, so you can come back to this one forever. We did it with the small project, obviously the box program, just for cost purposes and also so that they weren't overwhelming for others. You know, it wasn't an overwhelming project. But obviously, if you look at the size of that, it's, or, you know, look at the instructions on this, you could make the big ones as well using these instructions. So
yes. All right.
There's a lot more organization, though.
We're on line 3. We're folding back. Tear that right there. Put that a quarter ruler on there. And then we're going to grab there and trim. Place this on there, fold back. And since I know that Dennis is watching, if you guys are actually from the Dallas area, Dennis teaches down there. And he does a pretty good job at teaching this. And he's a great color designer. Okay, there we go. Pull back. All right. Now we have one more piece to put on. And we're going to do the same thing with this.
We're going to stay on that camera.
So here's my straight edge here. Okay. And we're going to find this point right here, and we have to have fabric under there. So we're going to line it up on this side right here. And that puts my point on right there. Okay. So you want to be about, it looks like I'm about 3/4 of an inch from the tip of this piece right here. Okay, so then we're going to take the next piece. We're going to stack it right on top. Let's put some glue on that before I move forward. Glue those edges together. Okay, then we're going to take the next piece. Put a little bit of glue along that edge. this up, place it, check that point there, put it on. And there we go. We're ready to sew the last seam on. Or the last seam, I should say. The last piece on with the last seam. So this is line 3. So line 3, we're going to start. And Judel says, don't bump my thing.
Yeah, she's bumped the camera.
I bumped it. Did I?
It perfectly lined up.
Is it still lined up?
They can see.
Okay.
It's just now it's kind of, the machine's kind of.
There, we're going to grab the next one. And when you guys are sewing over, I'll show you when you need to slow down. So when you get right about here, just about an inch away from where that all your seams go over the line there, just slow down so that your foot doesn't get pushed off the line. There we go. Right. I'm gonna go cut them apart. And press them. And run that starch panel on there. And you want to make sure those lines are opening up on both. The seam is no pleats in there. You don't want little puckers. Okay, so one of the things that happens when you're doing paper piecing, when you don't get your seams pressed open so that there's no puckers or no little folds in there. So if you press a little fold in there after you trim everything off and you remove the paper, that opens up and all of a sudden your pieces are bigger, okay? And with the wedding star, that's going to cause you some problems. There's no real forgiveness. You need accuracy as you're working with this pattern all the way through it, okay? So now we're going to use our melon template. We're going to place this on the back side of it, and we're going to use it to trim. And I'm going to trim this one here, and then I'll go trim the other one underneath that other light table. Okay, so we're going to trim one more of them over here. And then I'm going to show you how to cut the smart corners on this. No matter what size pattern I make, I always cut the smart corners on my melon. It makes it so much easier to assemble it and get it to fit properly when we're doing our curve piecing. Get that on there. There we go. Okay, so now, see your Creative Grid ruler fits the papers the way they are. Then you're going to come in and you want to cut those tips off. And there's two little angles there. There's your first angle, your second angle. That's the first angle and the second angle. So if you ignore all of the other little smart corners in your pattern, these ones you want to cut, all right? So we have those pieces ready. And then I'm going to take the rest of these and put them back in the bag here so we don't lose them. And I only need one of them for the next demo. Okay. Okay. So here's our arcs that we made before class. And again, remember I told you at the beginning of class that to go back to the other video where we did the arcs in the last project. Okay, so you've got this is your A arc and this is your B arc. And notice that we don't have any fabric on these, on the B arcs, on the ends, because that's where your corners go. Okay, and I'm going to pull out, I believe I have, no I don't, so we're going to do it this way. Okay, so you're going to have two piles, and when you set up your corners, it's going to be set up like this. So this is going to be A, I believe, and that is my dark color right there. And then this one down here is going to be, this is A. I need to check really quick. Let's look at my instructions and I'll show you where you find that. So you have an A, and then this one is the D color. And this is a C, and this is a B. Okay? So the way those colors are set up, I actually have this, my B color is there. This one is my star color, and this is my other light. So basically, this is what I would call dark, light, dark, light, okay? And the reason this is my light is because that's actually my medium star, okay? So there is a rhyme and reason. And so then what you do is as you go through all of your stacks and pieces, you're going to have half of your arcs, your B arcs are going to have these two colors on, and the other half these two colors on. And that's the way your instructions are written. Okay, then the other thing that I'm just going to go over really quick here is after we don't sew these on, we only sew these on like this onto, I think it's 4 units for what we're doing here. You'll have 4 units. Otherwise, these don't get sewn on until after we add the center pieces onto the 2 pieces, the arcs here. So that's going to get sewn onto there. And before I go any further, I'm actually going to take a little, there we go, swatch of each one of these. and I'm going to glue them to my and we're going to grab this and we're going to put a swatch on there, because that way I don't have to remember which one's A and which one's C. I just have to look at the colors to know what they are. This one goes here, and then this one is my checkerboard. Okay, so so we're going to take these 4 pieces and set them aside, and then we're going to take this piece right here and we're going to put that with that piece right there, and then you would also have the rest of your star pieces go with this. Okay, the only thing that's different between these is just the corner pieces, all right? And when we get up to the assembling them, you'll understand what I'm talking about. So basically now we have 2 groups that we have to do here, right? So this is going to be assembled, and then we're going to have this piece and this one, and then you'll have another set just like that. That'll have this piece on here, and this one will be here, and this one will be like that, okay? So those are our groups. So to start with, before we can sew the corners on, we have to put these pieces on. In the instructions, it's going to tell you to remove the paper from this, okay, and then you leave the paper on this, okay, and I have some on the wall, so I'm going to go grab the ones on the wall to do that with you so that you can see why I leave the paper on. And then I'm going to do one where I don't have the paper on. On this one, you have to leave the paper on because you haven't sewn these pieces on yet. So let me grab a piece up here that I have the paper on. And I'm just going to get rid of this set and use this one. Right there. So we removed the paper from our center. We have the paper still on the arc. And we're going to take our glue pen. We're going to fold the ends together, right, like this. And then I'm going to crease it. Okay, so I have this folded together, and I should be folding it together with right sides together like this. And that helps me find that center. And we need to do this underneath our little thing over here. We're done with that. Okay. So let's see. Goes like this. So nope, we do it with wrong sides together. That's right. So wrong sides together, that gives me the center. Then I come in here and I find my center right there. Okay, we're going to grab our glue pen and we're going to lift the end piece and we're going to put just a touch of glue right underneath that edge there to hold the fabric to the paper. And we're going to do the same thing there. So now I have those 2 ends glued down. Then I'm going to run my glue pen right along the edge there. And we're going to start in the middle and open this up and get this started going both directions from there. Now we're going to take this and we're going to put the rest of the glue on that unit. And we're going to match the end piece. And this is where your smart corners come in, because it's got a corner, a corner, and a corner. And it lays right in there along that edge. And you want that to match up. And then you just push the fabric and glue together and match the raw edges the rest of the way along there. Then you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to start here at the end and go back with your glue like that. And then you're going to match the smart corners right at the tip there. Get that started, and then pull that forward and match up your raw edges. Okay, and you have this little angle there. You can actually cut that off if you want. Gets rid of some bulk there, and then just put a touch of glue under there and re-glue that like that. Okay, now that's on my A unit. So now we're going to do the same thing with this one. Okay. We're going to remove the paper. And then we're going to take this piece, we're going to fold it with wrong sides together. Or no, it's right sides together. Where is it? It goes like this. Wrong sides together. Then we crease it, find the center. And then we're going to find the center line, which is right here. We're going to put some glue up there. Put that fold right in there. And then start pulling that back. And line up. Get that started. Then you're going to lift this up, put a little bit of glue underneath that end. Okay. And then you're going to match that. And you can see where we cut the little smart corners right there. And I don't think I showed you that, did I? I need to show that to you. Okay. So we'll grab another piece and do that. Now on this one, we're going to lift that and glue that down. Match those smart corners up. And there we go. Okay. So let me grab one of those pieces out of the bag. I need it right here. Here's one right here. Okay. So you have, if you look right here, when we were done, we had to trim 1/4 inch there. And right along that dashed line, line 8, there's some little smart corners that go there. And so what I do after I get that 1/4 inch seam trimmed, I just cut into the paper there like that, and then grab the bottom. And then we do the other end. So we just cut the paper, cut the paper, cut the paper, and what that did is it cut all of the little smart corners. So now I have a smart corner there, and I have my little smart corners there. And that's what I'm matching these up to when I glued those together, okay? And it didn't hurt anything, it just, all we did is just cut right through the paper, but you have to do that before you start sewing them together, right? So we're going to take this to the machine. We're actually going to sew on this side, okay, on the paper side. And then we know exactly where our 1/4 inch seam is, okay? We're going to downsize our stitch length to about a 1.8. Actually, I already have it there. And then we're going to start sewing the curve. We're going to place this right on the line there. I'm going to hold on to my threads before I go. Get this started without bumping. All right. I'm going to go down just a little bit further. Okay. And then I'm going to lift the paper and put my hand so that I'm actually holding the paper up away from the fabric underneath it. And we're going to sew right on the line. And I'm actually on the right side of that line. I'm touching the line, but I'm more on the right side than I am on the left side, which gives me what we call a scant 1/4 inch. And then we just want to hold the paper up. If you're working with a machine that has a wide foot, take the wide foot off and put on a zipper foot. And it really makes a difference, because then you can get the needle right up along the edge of that. And we have that one sewn. And then we're going to lift up the other one, and we're going to start sewing on it. Just going to start, and we're going to sew. It's a straight line right to until you hit line 8, and then once you hit line 8, then you start into the curve. And when you get to the line, that's line 9 there, then you're going to sew straight again, okay? All right. Now, we're going to take this, and we're going to do a temporary press on the A group and a permanent press on the B group. So the B group is going to actually get pressed out towards the center unit. And these pieces you should have 1/4 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch right there, which that's a perfect fit the way that's set up. See how straight that edge is? It's the same way here. It's nice and straight along there. So we're going to press that one. So that's pressed down. Make sure you don't have any little folds anywhere in this. And it's nice and flat. So then on this one, I'm actually not going to press it. What we're going to do now is we're going to pull the paper off of it. Okay. And I'm going to save this little paper because it's got a whole bunch of 1/4 inch lines there that I'm going to use when I start to assemble. And then we got to get rid of the paper out of the seam allowance here. Okay. All right. And I'm not going to press this yet. So we're going to put the melon on. So we're going to pull the papers off the melon. Now I just scratched that little piece right there in the middle there until I can get a hold of the paper. Once I get a hold of the paper, then I can finish tearing that off. Okay. Got just a little bit of paper there. Okay, so then right here I have a little dog ear, and that's going to stick out. So I'm just going to basically fold that back, trim that off, and then I'm going to put a little bit of glue underneath it and put that in place like that. Okay? That way it doesn't poke out on me when I start the curved piecing. So now this particular unit, there is no paper under it now. You have to do this just normal sewing. You want to look at it. You want to make sure that your point is down here. And I have done this many times, hundreds of times, I sew those pieces on backwards. So I'm going to tell you right now, you need to pin this piece on here. Okay, so we've got the point, and the points are supposed to be on the light end. I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to crease it to find my center right there. Okay, then I'm going to take this, we're going to grab a little pin here, and I'm going to flip this over just like that and pin it. And some of you will think, well, I know how it's supposed to go, I won't pin it. But what happens is when you don't pin those together, you pick this up, and we just turned it backwards. And now when I sew, I have the point going in the wrong direction. It's just the way your hands work. And so then you have to flip it around. So it's just easier to take the whole stack, find the center, and put a pin right there in the middle. Okay, then you can actually take your glue pen and you can glue the first half. I normally don't glue the first half, but there's nothing wrong with it. You don't need to glue the second half. And then you get that started right there and just get this worked in. So the idea here is to make sure that it's glued along that edges. And if you're good at curved piecing, you may not even have to glue that piece. All right, so we're going to go to the machine. And I'm actually going to start on sewing on a little piece of paper here. Okay. Just because it's easier to get started on paper. And I'm going to start right on that 1/4 inch line, and then I'm going to lift my foot and I'm going to lay this melon piece right along that 1/4 inch line there, and then I'm going to start sewing. And what you're going to have to do is double check, because your seams are going in facing the machine and they may want to buckle on you. So to avoid that, you can actually take and put a little bit of glue on those seams like that, and then they won't buckle up from the pressure foot. We're doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And we're going to sew to the middle, and then we're going to stop. Okay, and then I'm going to glue just because it's going to be easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. But normally I just put my finger right here. Okay, so right there at that tip, we're going to put just a little bit of glue, and you're going to match up that smart corner. Like I said, I normally don't glue that. All I have to do is just, once I get it mashed, just put my finger on it like that, and then I leave it. And then I grab my next finger and I put it on just on the next seam, and the next finger goes on the next seam, and then I just pull this one back. And now the seams are actually facing towards you, so they're not going to buckle up underneath the pressure foot. Okay, so right here, you need to make sure you don't veer off. You need that 1/4 inch. So I like to take this little piece of paper, get that underneath there like that, and that tells me exactly where I have to sew off on that point. And we're just going to sew right to that line. All right, now we can remove that little piece of paper there. We're going to cut the thread, get rid of it right there. We're going to do the same thing down here. Now we're going to go to the iron, and we're going to press. Both of these seams are going to be pressed in towards the arc. Okay, so we're going to put a little bit of starch on it, And then we're going to take our steam iron.
A bit closer to the center of the iron.
So see, that one's pressed towards the arc. Then I'm going to flip it over and make sure I don't have any puckers or folds along the seam line. And if you do, just take your starch pen again and run that right along there, and that'll open that up. Okay? Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing up here. So on this one, we're going to have to take, and I like to put a little bit of glue, just a touch glue right there, kind of get that to lay down, because then I can make sure that I don't have any folds right at where I don't get it pressed properly. And now I'm just going to steam this, and it's going to be steamed towards the arc. Once I get that done, I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to grab our starch pin, and we're going to run it right along that folded edge there, the seam line. Make sure that that fabric opens up properly. Okay, so most of your distortion when you're doing your sewing on these melon pieces, most of the distortion is because you're not getting it a 1/4 inch seam, and you're not getting this pressed open properly, the press, so that there's no folds in there. All right. So now our next step here is to put the corners on. So I've got a little swatch on there, so I know exactly where that's supposed to go, and that we're going to put that one on that end, and then the other one on the other end. And all I'm doing is just centering the paper in the middle of that square. So it's right along the edge. I lined up the edge of the fabric to the 1/4 inch seam line there. And there we go. So we're going to press both of those, and then we're going to trim them off. So to trim those off, I like to take my ruler here, and I line it up down here right at the corner there, and then I line it up right along that trim line there, and then trim. If there's any fabric sticking out, it's going to clean up that edge properly for you. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So just line up the corner there, line this up, and there we go. Get that cut there. All right. And then the rest of it, we can just pretty much free. Oh, that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling fabric under there, but it's my little swatch that I'm feeling. Go. And there's a smart corner there at the end. Okay. And now we have our corners on. So the purpose for putting the corners on last is it sews these little end pieces down. If you put these on, then these would be overlapping the corner pieces, and when you tried to sew that seam, you would have difficulty making sure that you were inside. So this way, we actually have an opposing seam, and those little corners lock together for you. So we're going to take this, and we're going to sew those two together. So we're going to remove the paper. B unit now. What time is it?
3:09.
Oh, we're doing good. What time are we supposed to be done?
4.
4 o'clock, yeah.
I mean, we try and get done by 4. Sometimes we're done early.
Okay. So now we're going to sew those two pieces together. And I'm going to see if I can find my little tool. And it doesn't look like I have it with me today. Oh, okay. Well, in one of the boxes, you actually had a little tool that's called an awl.
I think that the all came in last year's box. It wasn't this year's box.
Oh, did it? Okay. Yeah, it's missing from my stuff today. Okay, so we're going to sew it without the awl. So we're going to take this, but what the little awl does is it has a little curve on the end, and it helps you find where the two pieces lock together. So this piece right here is there's smart corners all the way around that. And I'm just going to put a little bit of glue to hold that in place to get started. Okay, so it's a straight line from here to this point, and then we start the curve on it. All right, so you're going to get that glued together, and then we're going to find a little pin, and we're going to come in here at 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to find a 1/4 inch there, and it looks like it's coming right out exactly where it's supposed to, and I'm going to put it in at 1/4 of an inch on the piece underneath it. And it is right where it's supposed to be, so I probably don't even have to pin it because it's glued right there. Okay, so I'm going to sew a straight line from there until I hit my seam, my stitch line, and then I'm going to start turning everything. Okay, so one of the things that would help too is if you actually at this point find where the center is on your melon piece again. So we'll just fold this, find where that's at, and put a little crease there. So now when I'm sewing, I'll know where that's at. And if you need to, you can put a little pin there so that you don't lose that spot. Okay, so let's go to our machine, and we're going to start sewing. And so the first thing I want to do is actually use this purple thing just to point. So I want to start right there. I want to land right there with my needle at 1/4 of an inch. I'll lift the pressure foot just a little bit. So, okay. So once I get to there, now I can start rolling this around. Just lift the pressure foot. And now we're going to start a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And notice that I didn't glue anything. It takes you longer to glue it than it does to even attempt to sew it. Take that. Okay, so here's my pin. I matched it up to my very center seam there. I'm gonna get rid of the pin now. Okay, sew to the next line, and then I'm going to actually place this, and I'm going to fold it back and see where it's supposed to land. And then I'm just going to crease it right where it's supposed to hit. And then I can see the crease right there. And when I hit that, I'm going to stop and line this back up here so it's a straight line. Pull this back a little bit and then start sewing. And then I'm going to check, and I have a really nice fit there and a really nice fit there. So see my corner there, and then there's my corners right there, okay? So we're going to take this one and we're going to press this one out as well. So the A's go in, the B's go out. I'm probably going to have to grab a glue pin and get that bottom there glued back. Take this one, glue that one back. Okay, so now when you look at this, you should have a 1/4 of an inch right here between the edge of the arc and the edge there, a 1/4 of an inch there, a 1/4 of an inch here, and a 1/4 of an inch there. And if you have that, then you're going to have a block that you can actually square up to the next piece. But that's the way that looks, okay? All right, so now what I'm going to do is clean off my table here, get all this paper out of the way, and then we're going to go start walking through the instructions and show you the different parts that you have to build. So we're going to work back and forth between the wall. We'll get this stuff out of the way. We don't need this anymore. Don't need this, don't need this, don't need this, don't need these. Okay, so let's find the page that we're going to go to. So basically what I completed here, this block that I just completed is actually it's actually my unit block 6. Okay, so it's actually a unit block 6, okay? So we're going to go back through the instructions just a little bit here so that you guys know how to read this. So if you look at this picture right here, it shows the center dark star, the arc, and the melon, okay? That's called unit block 1 when it's assembled, which there it's assembled right there. And that was half of this group there. If you're wondering how many of those you have to make for your quilt, go up to this little chart here. See this chart? And look for unit block 1, which is right there. It says you have to make 8 of those for your quilt, for this table runner, okay? So you're going to have 8 pieces of this group right here made. Okay, then if you go down to here, it says part 2, unit block 2. And unit block 2 is an arc and a melon, and it's just those two. And I'm going to grab one off the wall for you. So this is actually my unit block 2. And I'm going to go grab a unit block 1 for you. Just a second. I'll put this back here. And then this one. There. That's a unit block 1. So if I'd assembled, so these 3 pieces up right here, this gives me unit block 1, okay? And you guys saw me do that. And we're making 8 of those according to these little instructions right here, all right? Then down below, unit block 2 is actually just this piece and that one. So you have your arc and your melon. And if I go up to my chart, it tells me up here, unit block 2, I have to have 4 of those. Okay, do you see how you read that? All right, so then the next thing.
Someone said the camera didn't switch.
Where?
Yeah, I'm not sure. One of our camera views might not be working. Hold on. Just give everybody a second to catch up. Is it, can you guys see her now? Let us know. They're on a little bit of a lag on top of that.
Okay.
So I just have to give it a second. I'm not sure if when I switch over to this camera, if for some reason it's switching.
Give it, there's a lag.
Yeah, so is everybody caught up with her yet? Just give her a second. We're waiting for you, so. Says nope. No. Let's see. Well, I'm going to transition around and see if it wakes it back up for you. No, we're looking at the wall. All right, hold on. Oh, okay, now they're switching. Yeah, I don't know. So they did that to it early again. Yeah, it did that to us earlier too. It's like it missed a switch to a camera. I don't know, that's a software issue. So, but now it looks like we're on the instructions. Stick your hand under there, Mom. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, so let's back up and do this again, okay? So we're going to go, so I'm on page 14, okay? And we're going to build unit block 1, all right? Unit block 1 is this piece. So it's my dark star point, and then it's our melon, or our arc, and then our melon. So that makes up unit block 1. And if I look here, I need to know how many to do, because if I'm doing a large quilt, that number could be 84, it could be 57, you know, there's different, depending on what quilt. On this one, if I go up to this little chart at the top, it says there that I need 8 pieces. So I have to make 8 of this group, all right? So then we're going to take that away, and then we're going to go down here to part 2, unit block 2. If I go up to my chart, it says I need 4. So unit block 2 is actually the arc and the melon, which is just those 2 pieces. So I have to have 4 of just that group, all right? So then we're going to go over here, and I need to go find the pieces for unit block 3, which is this. Okay, so unit block 3 is my CMS. Can you see me? Yeah. Okay, so it's the CMS unit, and without any corners. So basically I would have all of my CMS units made and sewn on to all of the arcs, just like that. Okay, so that makes up unit block 3. And unit block 3, it says you have to make 8 of those, of that grouping. Okay, then when you go to unit block 4, unit block 4 tells you to divide this group. So we're going to have 2 groups now. And then it tells you to add the corner pieces. So we're going to pretend like we're sewing on our corners. Right there. And that makes up my unit block 4. It's divided into 2 groups there. All right. So this one's telling me that if I go up here, unit block 4 says I need 8 of those. But remember, I'm doing it in 2 color groups, so that means I need 4 of this color group here and 4 of this color group, all right, on my corner pieces. Okay, so I need to switch this a little bit so you guys can see it. Can you see that better?
Yeah.
So there's one of the color groups, and then there's the other color group with the other corners on it, okay? So then we're going to go to the next group, and the next group is this one right here. So that, no, I'm wrong. The next group is group 5, and unit block 5, what it is it's just the arcs, the B arcs, which look just like this. There you go. And you're going to have 2 in this color group and 2 in this color group. And so when you go to your chart over here, it says unit block 5, you need 4 total, and so you're going to have 2 and 2 of the color group. All right? So then the next group we go to is unit block 6, and that's what I made as our sample. That's my unit block 6, all right? And that's assembled, and that has both of those units, all of the pieces in it, except for group 5. So then, and that takes you all the way down here, and when you're done, you're gonna have 4 that have these colors on, and 4 that have the other 2 colors on, all right? So then the next block group is a unit block 7.
2.
Huh?
2 and 2.
Is it 2 and 2?
You make 4.
Oh, you're right. 2 and 2. Because you're only making 4 of that one. Okay. So then let's go to unit block 7 and 8. So unit block 7 uses, I've got to see which one it uses. That's got to be, that's this one. Okay, this is unit block 7, which uses
the CMS.
Yep, I got to find my mess. Here's my CMS piece. So it's that piece, it's this one, and then we have this piece goes here, This one goes here. And then, so that's this part of it, okay? And then the other part of it is this one and this, okay? So can you see how that goes together? I'm going to turn it like this. Now you should be able to see it. And then this like that. So that's going to have the B arc and the A arc, but see there's nothing sewn on to the A arc here, okay? So then the next group is this one. So we got that there. And then we have to have the A arc again. So actually it's this one right here, goes like that. That's that piece. Then you have your melon, which is sewn onto the A group. And then you have this. Okay. So basically what happens is if you follow that chart, you take all of the components for group 1 and group 3, join those, and that gives you what you need for block 6. And then you take the block group 2 and block group 5, which are these pieces, and those are all joined to make unit 7 and unit block group 7 and block group 8. And block group 8 is on the next page, right there. So you guys are going to have to read this to make sure that you're pulling the right stuff up, that you're working with the dark fabrics and the light fabrics and the medium and stuff. But it all falls into place really easy as long as you're reading your steps, okay? Now we're going to get rid of this. And we're going to go to this picture down here. This is actually a layout of how you set it up, okay? So if you look in here, these are all my unit block 6. Those are the squares in the center. And then on the corners, I have a unit block 7, a unit block 8, unit block 7, unit block 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, okay? And that's how we assemble it on the walls that is shown together. And then you go over here, and it tells you illustration 2 shows sewing the 4 patch together in the middle, the 4 star pieces together in the middle. Illustration 3 shows sewing the corner pieces together. Illustration 4 shows sewing the 2 corner pieces on across the center. And then illustration 5 shows this corner piece and this corner pieces. There's arrows on all of this that tells you which way to press your seams as well, okay? So let's say you want to square it up. In the square up process, as you're doing all of these pieces back here, as you're building all of these, on this finished unit block 2 and the finished pieces for unit block 5, those actually have to have that other template on it. So you'll be adding the template to those 2 units. There's a chart right here. You can follow that chart the same way. And then you'll end up, it tells you how to cut out your pieces. They're cut from a quarter square triangle is what they are. That puts the grain line along the outside edge of your piece. And then you'll look at your assembly instructions. The assembly instructions are basically you have to get these triangles in place before you start to assemble. So you're going to have everything assembled to this point and then you start. But you'll have to, in your instructions, if you go back here when you're building those sections, it should tell you here as you're going through, that if you're squaring it up, yeah, it is, it's right here. So in unit block 2, it's telling you all what line to work on, and then it says note, squaring up the quilt. Okay, so right there, that's going to send you back to that other page and tell you to add those other pieces on. All right, so that's it. I know, well, if you want, Judel, how do we sell the triangles or the geese? Because there's a picture in here where you can get geese. We must have an extra foundation package that you can buy the geese for.
Yeah, so hold on. So there's a package in there or the package that we sell called a geese square up package. And it's going to have plenty of geese in it for this pattern. But you can buy that, and we have these little geese blocks that fit our wedding ring blocks so that you can add that if you want. And I'm sure it says that.
It does on page 18. It says border geese foundation paper.
Yeah.
So there's your
that's
information.
where you can get the geese from. And then you can add another border beyond that if you want. And it explains that in that booklet as well. So
yeah.
Anyway, if you're just going to do the little guy, there's different ways to do it. And then someone asked today about if we were going to demo binding on the curve. So we are not, because we don't have it done to that point. But if you...
There's a video on it.
Yeah, if you go to the YouTube channel and look under our videos for the inverted mitered corner video, that is the process that you have to use. The only difference is I think that one is done on a square block, not a curve. And so
it's the same thing.
Well, but I don't think we used a bias strip because it's a square, not a curve. And so if we didn't, you're going to cut a thinner strip on a bias for the for that curved binding. So,
and that strip should be cut. It's a single. It's not a double folded binding, right. Curved binding. You want to do it as a single, and so we cut those at 1 3/16 is what we cut those. Did you lose your battery?
I don't know. Okay, I'm not sure if you guys heard all that very well because my mic is blinking with a red light. So, anyway. All right. Well.
So I'll say that again on the binding width. If you're going to if you're doing the curved edge, you're going to cut your bias strips at 1 3/8 inches. And then it's just a single edge binding. But it works really good and it lays down. And just, you can go to that video and watch that video on how it's done. And if you don't really want to do it the way I tell you to do it in the video, then it naturally folds. All you have to do is sew in and then you go the other direction. And it will naturally fold in there without stitching it all down, okay? So, anyway, we do have a video already on that part. I think we're pretty much done.
All right.
I'm thinking just a second to see if I'm missing anything.
Any questions from anybody before we go? All right. Looks like we are set then. So, let's see. It'll be a couple months before we're back here to join you again. And then the next time we'll be on the large box program for the C border.
Yeah.
And that was going to be super fast.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we might...
It'll probably be a pretty short video.
Yeah, it's either going to be short or we might add some cutting for the queen border or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
which you won't have yet, but just to spread it out a little bit. So, anything And I think that's everything else we need. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you in a couple months.